The name is Jason Sango.
And can you tell us what happened?
Well, I went to a wine dinner one evening, and I was driving home on the way to Tampa, and when I got to the house, I was feeling a little funny, and about 20 minutes later, my wife got home from church, and she said, "What's the matter?" And I couldn't talk, and my hands were very hard to use, so she put me in the passenger seat and off to the emergency room we went, which is about 3 miles from our house.
Okay, and what did they determine while you were there?
As I was walking in, she said, "I think he's having a stroke," and then I declared I had a stroke. And after that, the details become pretty fuzzy, actually. So I remember getting in a chair, and I remember very bits and spots. They said, "You have brain aneurysm or brain something," and then we're not sure if we can handle it here, so we're going to transfer you to another hospital, which is 3 miles back towards my house, and 6 miles the other way. So then they told me, and then overnight it had doubled in size. So they took me in that morning and performed the surgery.
Okay. And how did you hear about InStride?
So InStride was actually accidental because we did it through our catering company. And Paul was trying to, he said, "You ought to come check out this thing called InStride." And so I came and I listened to the stories. And that was actually back in April. Mm-hmm. And right now, as we sit, it's the 1st of August. And so I said, "Well, that's great. It was really good, but I got to try to find something closer to home." So there's a similar company up there, and I went for their open house in May, towards the very end, and it didn't. They said, "Well, we're going to take a year because they only have one therapist, and she works 1 day a week, and she gets to see patients, and that's all she can do." So that's when I reached back out to Paul, and after I got through a couple of hiccups here, we were able to get something scheduled for early July, and we've had now 4 rides so far.
Okay, and you've been doing, once you got out of the hospital, you were doing clinic therapy.
Yes. Well, it's funny. I had 3 different clinicists come to the house 6 different times. And I said, "Okay, that's it. You're done." So ever since, that's from December till about, we'll call it 31st of January. From that time on, I have been doing all of my own therapy. So I have been 3 times a day I bought an InStride, but that was after I was here. I learned about the in therapy, right? I can't remember.
The
TheraStride.
TheraPlate.
TheraPlate. Yes. Sorry. TheraPlate. And so I've been doing that 3 times a day since the beginning of June. I've been walking typically we'll walk 1.5 miles, get in the pool for an hour, and then walk home as an exercise.
As an exercise.
Yes. So I'm doing all these things, and then I just keep adding to it. And so, early January, it was great because I think I was ready for InStride to.
Okay, so some of the baseline questions we want to know is, when you first came to your first ride, how did you feel, if you can remember?
Yes. Well, it was interesting because I felt like I didn't know what to expect. And so getting on the horse that first time, it was number one, it's really tired me out. And number two, I was like, the difference between week 1 and week 2 made a big difference just in that little bit, because I knew that instantly, I knew that InStride was going to help. The getting to the same horse every week is big. And having the same folks, and I'm starting to grow comfortable with that aspect of things. And again, that's 4 rides into it. So,
Right.
When we'll, and the biggest problem I have, besides my right side, basically is dead. Now, in 3 weeks or 4 weeks going on, it's just now starting to get a titch of tingle, but my deafness is definitely in my right ear.
The first time you rode, you found it very fatiguing.
Yes.
And that's partly because there's so much input coming in,
Yes.
mentally
Yes.
and physically.
Yeah.
The second time you rode, how did you feel about that one?
I felt like the physical aspect was gone, but I still had the mental aspect. And that's the hard part for me, is to let go, right? And understand and trust, and it takes time to just trust the animal, for one, and be where he's, a trusted foe. And I feel like this was the first time today where I felt like, hey, I trust him, and that's for 4 weeks. That's a big step.
That's a big step.
Yeah.
Being able to trust that your horse isn't going to do something crazy.
Right. Right.
And it's going to just keep walking as they are leading them around.
Right.
And to trust that the people surrounding you are going to be there.
Yeah.
If you feel a little unsteady, or if the horse, somebody turns and looks somewhere, that you have backup there for you.
Yeah.
And that's very much a trust issue, which, as you say, each time you come, you're getting more comfortable with that.
Right.
So that each time you come, there's less apprehensive to have to mentally face, because you know what happened the last week and the week before that and the week before that, and it's all getting easier, and that's a progression. You're right, your mental aspect is one of your, I don't want to say stumbling blocks right now, because it's expected to have, as adults, we have greater fear. We know what to fear more than children.
Got it.
Okay? So our kids can get on there,
and
they can hang off the side and not get a reaction, where an adult getting a little off-centered is going to have more fear of that. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a normal aspect that you're going to get anyway. But the ability to be able to trust and relax, once we get to that point, is just going to help you then be able to handle more physical things while you're up there.
Right.
Right now we're just trying to get your posture,
Right.
which you're starting to feel. You can feel when we tell you to pull that pelvis up.
Right.
When it relaxes. We're going to look at correcting your entire posture, but some of it is just your natural posture.
Right.
So we're not going to be able to change that so much if, something that's been there all these years. That's a little harder to change. But we want to get you back to where you were anyway.
Yeah.
Okay? And so we're going to be working on your posture more before we start adding other things that challenge your balance more, because you have to know where to get yourself back to.
Yeah.
Okay? But you're doing great.
And the difference between weeks 3 and 4, again, a lot of, so I have these things going on in between, and share a little bit with you as we start, but that I have to deal with as well as I'm taking that in because those are normal changes too as part of the healing process. So again, really putting it all together is the interesting part. Like when we started, I was hurting the first time, but as we've gone just 4 times already, I can feel a tremendous trust of the horse, and I know that what he's doing is he's helping me learn to take that power and transfer it to other things, if that makes sense.
Right, because when you get that positive feedback, then you can take it with you to other activities.
Yeah.
And this is all building. It's a continuous building on what you've been doing and advancing, and you feel, oh, this got better. I understand. I can feel this better. Well, when I think about it, my swimming is better.
Right.
My walking that 1.5 miles is easier.
Right.
I feel more flowing.
Yeah.
All those kind of things kind of build on each other.
Right.
And that's what this is supposed to do.
Yeah.
So at this stage, you're feeling that coming to InStride is really helping your whole rehab activities that you do.
Right. Right.
Because what you feel here, you're now translating into when you're doing other activities and trying to get those same kind of feelings, those relaxation, fixing your posture, and all those things you're carrying over.
Yeah.
Which is good that you're aware of that.
Yeah. The thing, and certainly, I still suffer quite a bit from whatever this posture I have here, the scar I have here.
Mm-hmm.
The short-term memory is difficult for me, and so I'm working on it, and I just added into my routine reciting a paragraph of the largest article that I can find, and I read that one through in the periodical in the morning to start to try to open myself back up again. So again, and praying for people and different things that are going on allow us to do these things over and over and over and over, and then I start to see little increases as we go. So,
Well, I have seen some good changes.
okay.
You're much better at getting your position and correcting and following those corrections. Today, we corrected that pelvic tilt,
Right.
and you were feeling it come and go,
Right.
which is good, because if you can't feel it, you can't correct it.
Right.
It got to a point where it just fatigued.
Yeah.
And then you were no longer correcting it. Even if you thought you were feeling it, it wasn't there anymore because it had just fatigued out.
Yeah.
But that just shows that you have been working on it. It was working the rest of the time. We could translate, leave that alone while we went up higher to try to do some of that correction too. And you were able to still feel that pelvic tilt and get it into position until you're just fatiguing.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen. That's why we kind of move around. There's a lot more stuff that we'll do up there.
Right.
But I want to see more relaxation first.
Yes. I'll come back. I'll be relaxed.
You've come back a little bit better each week.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been a little bit better.
Good.
You can, when we say relax, you can see some visible relaxation.
Yeah.
It kind of creeps up again.
Yeah.
But you're starting to learn that feel of relaxing.
Yeah.
And trusting and feeling the movement of the horse. And that's the big thing, is getting that movement of the horse.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
All right.